I just finished Jeffrey Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Man, I just want to first say Evanpeters playing Jeffrey Dahmer's. I do the slow clap like Tyrone. I want to say it was, I loved I could not stop watching this. Like, I really could not stop watching. Very chilling, very haunting, creepy, very cringy. And like I said, from the overhelm of Ryan Murphy. So it gives me that assassination of Gianni Versace. It gives me that impeachment feel where it's dark, very those morbid light feels. Like I feel like the set was always dim to pay attention to the mannerisms of Jeffrey Dahmer. And Evanpeters delivered that perfectly. Like very awkward little boy, you know, and from watching Mindhunters and understanding Mindhunters of what is a serial killer, and they always checked off the boxes of, did they come from a disturbing home, you know, they had mother issues and, you know, socially awkward. They always was checking off these boxes, and you can tell they all had the same type of thing, like this dysfunctional family, and you can tell he was just awkward just from a little boy. And it could stem from his mother, you know, always drugged up, always kind of just, you know, really bad postpartum depression, which they didn't know about it at the time, which we kind of find out later that's what she had. Because I was just, you know, and the father's always arguing with her like, man, you're crazy and you're always drugged up half the time. You don't do nothing with him. But he was always gone. So it was like he's always gone at work. He's tried to, you know, comfort him, but realizing that he's socially awkward, he didn't really understand how to connect with him. Until later on, you show that, you know, he was very enamored with dead animals, and then he kind of showed him, you know, how to do a taxidermy, and that's what he was telling himself, like, okay, he's liking this, well, I'll do this so he can get into taxidermy later on, not finding out that later on is like that's what, and he was so pissed off when he met him in jail. It was like, you know, he was like, hey, it started when we did this. He was like, don't blame this on me, it's not me. And I'm just kind of like, it's a lot of things that you got to consider, you know. And like I said, just going back and I see the flashbacks, it was just so horrid. And I'm glad they didn't show the gruesome nature of what he did to his victims, because it would re-traumatize the victims' families. And just even when that black dude in the beginning escaped, I was like, man, dude, my heart was just racing, high anxiety. And it was just from, like I said, the mannerisms, like the way he talked, the way he moved, those awkward silent moments that you know that he's going to do something, and we're just glued to the screen like, what is he going to do? How is he going to do it? Especially in the beginning when they were watching The Exorcist 3, and he's kind of like you just can tell, I was like, oh my God, like you don't know what is going to do. And I was trying to prepare myself for something extremely gruesome, and I'm glad they didn't show it. And even like later on the episodes where they finally, just even with that, with what happened with, you know, in the beginning, they finally break it down of when the police had came, and then it's like, you know, he has handcuffs, and they start finding out that he had pictures of just dead bodies and, you know, decapitations, and they finally arrested him, and you find out what he actually done. And I was like, whoa, had a whole human head in a refrigerator, you know, he had body parts in a freezer, and he was eating hearts, and I was like, oh my God. And then even when they went into the room to watch the movie, you know, you seen his bed was just, you know, had blood in it, and the dude was like, man, yeah, this is something very sick. And I just kept staring in the corner, like, what is that vase, you know, thing that's in the corner? And I'm just like, you can tell that's where he's stashing bodies, right there in the corner. And I was like, man, turns out that's a vat of acid where he's just dumping body parts in there so he can collect just human bones. And just had a fascination of it ever since a little kid. And that's why I was like, oh my God, this is extremely horrible, just hurtful. And I was like, oh my gosh. And just give Niecy Nash also an Emmy performance of being that next door neighbor, of trying to figure out what is this man doing. I've been trying to call the police for so many months, ever since, and she's been traumatized ever since seeing that little boy run out of his apartment, just drugged up, and the police being racist, being homophobic, was like, send him back in there, and basically sending him back to death. And this is the person that you're supposed to protect and serve for the community, but just them being so racist was like, I don't care, white guy, he ain't gonna do nothing. He say he's 19, he's 19. He say he's drunk, he's drunk. And I was like, man, just the ignorance, naive, and just plain out racist. And you just tell him like, hey, I don't care what you say, this white guy's here, he looks like me, talks like me, acts like me, yeah, he's, this kid's fine, this that's his boyfriend, he's fine. And it hurts. And I'm like, man, it happens even to this day, as far as being black. They just don't want to hear you, they don't want to talk to you, don't want to hear your side, nothing. So I'm just telling myself, it's still hurtful that it's like that to this day, and seeing that he got away with this for so long because of that ignorance. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm sitting there like, man, for him to keep getting away with this is truly disturbing. And I feel like a lot of serial killers who are white, they had that element. Like, the police is on their side, look just like me. He's not doing nothing wrong. But nowadays, because we have the internet, we're more socially aware of, that socially awkward person, or just you get that hunch that something isn't right, and people really starting to act on that. So we have lesser and lesser serial killers, but we do have mass murderers. So that's why I tell myself, in this era of serial killer, I feel like he was not the last, but it was more prevalent around this time. They were just now coming out with That's What They're Calling Me, and just, it was so horrific. And I'm telling myself, in every aspect and every element, it's so horrific. From, it just detailed how he became this way, from when he was getting arrested, to the drinking. He got flunked out of Ohio State. His dad sent him to the Army. He got discharged because he started doing the same, crushing up, drugging people and doing what he wanted to them. So he got discharged from the Army and started becoming a butcher. And he goes to the fair because his grandmother's trying to help him. And his grandmother also stumbles upon his weird nature, and trying to help him out as much as she can. And, he got arrested for indecent exposure, jacking off, because he's seen one of the persons in the mirror that he killed because he's so drunk. And I'm just kind of like, man, this dude is so disturbed that nobody wanted to give him help. Like, man, hey, look, you really need to go get help. You have somebody like a psychiatrist or a shrink to really hone in on what the hell's wrong with you, because he couldn't stop. Like, he tried to stop and he couldn't stop. Even when he got arrested, he was fully cooperative, because he was like, I should have been dead or should have been stopped a long time ago. I can't stop, because he knew he couldn't. Not being sympathetic, it's just I'm more sympathetic to the victims that he was killing, because I'm just like, they don't have a voice. And I think that's why he targeted them, because they don't have a voice. So disturbing, chilling. Like I said, man, just, with Evanpeters, I'll have to watch interviews before I got done with this to see the mental toll that this is going to take on him. And he was like, yeah, oh yeah, the crew, thank God for the crew that they'll stop me, and kind of, because this is not normal. None of it is normal. Even if you're acting, it's still not normal, and, especially when he was pouring the blood on him, or when he's dancing after you hit, the guy with the barbell. And I'm just kind of like, man, this is truly disturbing. But like I said, give Evanpeters his Emmy. He deserves every award for this, because that man, you really have to show and hone in on his performance of, this is very cringy, played it to perfection. And I was so glued, so glued to this. Had to finish it, because I was like, my gosh, this took me out of everything else I was watching except House of the Dragon, just to watch this, because I was like, man, A+ performance from everyone. Like I said, Niecy Nash is a supporting actress in this. Yeah, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. If you guys aren't already watching, I'm seeing this making its rounds, and even to the victims, I really hope they find solace, and I really hope that later on they pay them just for watching this, because it's like #1 on Netflix right now streaming. So I just hope that Netflix does give the victims something, because it's going to be re-traumatizing for them watching this, you know. And it's hasn't been that long. It's only in the 90s, you know, like 20 years ago. It's still there for the people that this gruesome stuff happened to. So it's still with the victims' families, and I really hope that Netflix pays them something just for this, because, you know, as I'm understanding, nobody reached out to them, and they just put this out. And I was like, that's cold. That's cold, because I at least would have notified them to be like, hey, this is coming out, you know, warning, that type of thing. So you guys enjoyed my review of Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, Monster, on Netflix, limited series. They're about to get it. Subscribe to my channel, post, comment down below, and like the video. It's your boy, D Dice. Peace.